software engineers were scraping data for the FBI. Okay, that makes sense. How's that for a show intro?
That was perfect. Oh my gosh. Hey, Mark, Edward, Debbie, thank you for joining us live. I'm going to say welcome to Reformgelical now, because I'll probably not do it just like the last two shows, but thank you for everyone who's joining us live. And here is the thing. We could live stream Joe Biden's announcement of why he's justifying the $1.9 trillion if you guys want. So leave your comments in the comment section and let us know if you want to do it or not. We'll leave it up to you guys who are watching live if you want us to do it. I can't guarantee we'll watch it all because it could be terrible, but we've never done that before, and that would kind of be interesting. I did go onto the YouTube channel, and just to mark it in case we do it, 132 thumbs up, 2.8 thousand thumbs down already. It hasn't even started. Absolutely love it. The most popular president in all of history.
Oh, yeah.
Ratioed before it even starts.
I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. It's not even a blip on my radar anymore. It's obviously everybody hates him.
Yeah, obviously. Okay, so going back to the wonderful intro of tranny hackers being paid off by the FBI to hack Parler. And as you were saying that, I was laughing so hard because I remember our 2020 conversations and even our taglines, like only in 2020, only in 2020. It's just going to get crazier. Even last year, I would never thought that we would have brought up on the show at all tranny hackers hacking into a website. Could you imagine that even last year? Tranny hackers.
I guess in theory, I always knew that probably there were some tranny hackers out there, but I never thought I'd ever see it in print or I didn't think it would be real, in my face.
Yeah. At best, I thought it was a dying breed. I mean, what are the odds?
Well, I never really thought of it that much, but I guess I knew in theory that there had to be some at least.
Hypothetically.
I didn't know they'd be connected to the FBI, but hey,
I know. What we're talking about for those of you who are listening to us, because this isn't just him and I guess. Before the show, I just sent him a screenshot of this guy named Joseph Camp. And I would say gray hat hacker. I don't know if he's a white hat hacker or not. I don't know him that much. But I just started following him because he started hacking the people who Andrew Torba, who is on Gab, was calling the tranny hackers that were hacking Gab. And what Joseph was doing with his research and his hacking was proving that the information they actually got, the tranny hackers, were scraping data, which was that they were going through maybe the dark web or the websites and picking up personal information. And they found some username or something and were able to get in that way, but weren't actually hacking themselves.
Yeah. It's not necessarily something that a normal person would do, but it's
a normal tranny maybe.
Oh, I guess so. Well, normal. These words don't really mean much anymore.
I mean, Joe Biden just signed an executive order today that the military is going to pay for transgender surgery too. So normal.
Don't you mean that Joe Biden's hologram signed the executive order?
Yes. Again, we're ahead of our time. I don't know if you saw, I tagged you on something where they were starting to talk about that. Where they were going to...
No, I didn't see it. Was that on Gab?
It's on Gab, so you'll have to really look for your notifications.
Yeah, it's really hard to find stuff. Yeah.
I've gotten to a point on Gab where I don't even look at notifications. I just go back to my profile and look and see if anyone commented and then just go in.
I'm not quite there yet. I what I'll do is I'll spend a second or two. And if I don't see it in a second or two, I just assume I'll never find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly right. It's lost in the abyss.
So I don't even try.
Yeah, but anyway, so he was calling them out as tranny hackers and then showing them, and actually, he called them demonic, even tranny demonic hackers or whatnot. But anyways, this guy Joseph went in and started proving all this stuff, and now he's doxing all of them. He hacked into their stuff and actually pulled their information, pulled their identities, and he's working with law enforcement to turn them in for the criminal acts they did. But then also, it turns out the FBI was paying them for the stuff they were gathering. So,
oh, why not?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the FBI seems strong supporters of the LGBTQ community.
Strong supporters. Who knows? Who's to say? Like, there's certain sexual orientations that are like alien kind of some kind. Like there's some guy that identifies as an alien. Maybe he really is an alien, and the FBI has been hiding him all this time. And they've unleashed their transsexual demon brigade to go do what they're bidding now. Yeah. Who knows? I don't know.
Who knows? Hey, it's 2021.
It's 2021. I mean, anything can happen now.
Anything could happen. Oh, it's so scary, but it's true. Anything can happen.
I was talking to my brother yesterday, and we were just laughing about a bunch of different things, and we kind of both at the same time came to like a mental realization. It's like, we're kind of like dissociating ourselves from reality a little bit here. Like we're laughing, but like, there's like a military occupation in DC right now. Like it's pretty weird. And it's kind of weird. Nobody's seen Biden for a month and a half. Like it's kind of bizarre what's happening. So like we're like joking about it. We're like, oh yeah, tranny demons. But it's like, but they really are demonized. Like that's not funny. You know what I mean? Like
know.
We kind of don't want to like really accept it.
No.
China stole the election. We're like laughing about it. It's like we're just like dissociating ourselves. Like we can't really handle it.
Yeah, we can't process it, so we got to make it into a joke.
So I'm gonna post memes about it.
Yeah, I would love to hear the viewers' theory on this too. Is Joe Biden used to have blue eyes? He was Irish blue eyes, and now they're dark brown, like black. They're not even brown. They're like black. So what is that? Is that demon possession? Is it drugs? Is it a clone? There's anything. It's 2021.
I don't know, but I'll tell you what. There's this. There's an urban legend about black-eyed children, and so sometimes you'll get like kids in the middle of the night come to your door, and like they'll say, "Please let us in," like just kind of calm like that, and it's very eerie. And then when you look at them, they have just black eyes. Don't let them in. Nobody knows what happens if you let them in, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Holy crap, that gave me the chills. I am not going to sleep tonight. Thank you very much for that.
It's an urban legend. I don't know if it's
where?
real.
I've never even heard that before. Oh my goodness.
YouTube it, man. There's all kinds of stuff about these black-eyed children.
Why would I want to be creeped out and never sleep again? Are you kidding me?
Don't let them in, whatever you do. I don't know what they do when you let them in, but you can't.
So you can answer the door, but don't let them in. They're cool otherwise.
You gotta answer the door.
That's rude.
They can't get in unless you invite them in. That's the theory. And then when they get in there, who knows what happens? I don't know. These are the kind of things I do on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, I'm seeing one person say, "Let's try it," watching the live stream. I've heard no one say no. So maybe we'll just check in for a second and see if he can actually read tonight or something.
Well, they get them all doped up for these kind of things. So it's like, he's probably good. Once he gets doped up for a bit, he's probably good for like a good 20 minutes or so. But the thing is, you got to time it right. So oftentimes they get the timing wrong, and he's just a blubbering mess. Yeah,
you got to nap him up, drug him up, and all that stuff.
There's all kinds of stuff you need to do.
Yeah, Forrest doesn't believe me. I'm telling you, it was. If you go back and you look at him back in the day, blue eyes, and they use comments about it and stuff, and you talk about his white hairs and his kids touching him, and it's all weird crap. Do you remember that stuff?
Yeah, of course I remember. That's gross.
Yeah. But now if you look at them, they're dark. They're really dark eyes. It's weird. I don't know.
Is this your Q friends that are showing you this?
No, this is just looking at him. Just if you watch his show, if you watch him talk, I mean, it's dark. The Manchurian Candidate.
Well, the eyes are always the hardest thing to fake. Like when you play a video game, like everything on the character looks real except the eyes kind of look dead typically. So it's just that the hologram can't handle it. I don't know.
Maybe it's a glitch in the Matrix. All right, let's talk about my conspiracy theory segment today.
Oh, perfect.
And this
I thought that's what we were. We weren't doing that already.
No, that was history. That was factual 2021. We have to go to the realm of science for the conspiracy theories nowadays. To go out there, we have to go to like math and science.
You got to really go out there. Yeah, go to like the science textbooks and stuff to really get the conspiracies.
Yeah, exactly right. There is this guy named Gert Vanden Bosch, and I saw this from Tracy Benz, who's another person you can follow on Gab. She's an independent journalist, not like a true independent journalist kind of person. She did a lot of great work. I found her during the election stuff. She did a lot of work on the election fraud and things like that. But this person, Gert, and I'm just assuming it's Swedish or something, formerly worked for Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And he's a leader in vaccine development. And he is touring the world right now talking about how these vaccines are a terrible idea. Now, what's interesting about this and what caught my eye, and this is like the factual part, not the conspiracy theory part, is that he's not talking about it from an individual perspective. Like I just heard today, a Utah lady, she was 39, a mother, died 4 days after getting the vaccine.
No. She died with the vaccine, not of the vaccine.
You're right. We don't ever know when it's the vaccine within realm, but if it's COVID, they absolutely died from COVID.
They probably count it as a COVID death, to be perfectly honest with you.
That would probably be more accurate than some of the other COVID deaths they count.
That's a very good, valid point, actually.
Yeah. At least some form of it's in their body.
Sure.
So this guy is warning from I don't know how to say it, but a corporate level, so a mass humanity level, where he's saying that because we are doing this at a stage where the vaccine has mutated so many times already, that the vaccines that they're using aren't going to be effective. In fact, they're going to be harmful. Right. Because the vaccine isn't going to treat the most common variants of it now. Right. And it's going to somehow trick our body into not being able to fight the new variants of it.
Right. So
which is creepy.
It's interesting. So he's not an anti-vaxxer. He's saying that, on the individual basis, okay, great, whatever, you made a vaccine. But in the aggregate, it's almost like you almost kind of have to let it run its course is his argument, because right now we don't know how to make a vaccine to do the whole thing. It's only targeting selective mutations. And so in the long run, it's actually going to be worse off for humanity because the vaccine could actually trigger the opposite effect in the aggregate.
Yeah, correct. That was a great summation. Let me just read one little snippet of it. Yeah. He calls it immune escape. Why is nobody worried about immune escape, whereas COVID-19 has already escaped people's innate immunity as reflected by multiple emerging, much more infectious viral variants? Vaccine deployment is in the ongoing mass immunization campaigns are highly likely to further enhance adaptive immune escape, as none of the current vaccines will prevent replication or transmission of viral variants. So basically he's saying these aren't going to do anything good for you, and in fact, it's going to hinder your natural body being able to fight it the natural way. Right. And which I thought was interesting.
He even says that it actually enhances the infection rate if you jump in with a vaccine like this, because it's already mutating a bunch. And what he's saying is, I think, I'm not a scientist, right, that the vaccine will actually drive it to mutate further and quicker.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Right. And I don't know exactly how all that is, but he says in this quote, and you can look it up. You can go to Tracy Beans. It's Beanz is her last name. And you can look it up on Gab. She has it posted there. But he was saying that this is like obvious common sense stuff for the first level of virology, or the study of viruses and things like that. But this is his last line. And this is where I want to jump into the conspiracy theory. However, unless I am proven wrong, this cannot be an excuse for ignoring that mankind may currently be transforming a quite harmless virus into an uncontrollable monster. I've never been that serious about a statement I've made. So he's fearing that we're making it something that has equivalent to the flu in a lot of cases, going to turn into something that is what they were talking about in the beginning.
Right. It's interesting, and let me just say this too, because I'm not. This is the argument. Well, Matt, you're not a scientist. What do you? How could you be so irresponsible? How dare you? And it's like, well, you're right. I'm not a scientist, but there's one thing I do know. So this person knows about science, and they're very concerned. Okay, do I know if it's true or not? I don't know. I mean, who knows? I'm not a scientist, but what I do know is that it's very clear that this was a rush job. Right. That nobody disputes that. In fact, people are patting themselves in the back. Even Trump's patted himself in the back for the rush job that they did. And so we don't know anything about the long-term effects of this or what's going to happen. Nothing like this has ever been done before in this rush, way. Right. This is not, maybe it's not the first vaccine of its kind, but it's very new in general. We rushed it. People were, freaking out and this and that. And so it's like, is something like this plausible? I don't know, but I do know that it's been rushed, so it's probably not going to be the smartest idea. Things that are rushed typically aren't.
Right. Yeah. And we've been looking at it from the vaccine perspective, the development, and that it's an RNA vaccine. This guy is looking at it from the virus maturity and the timing of it, which, man, that's like an exponential thing. You have the virus being rushed itself in production, a new kind of, I mean, not a virus, the vaccine, a new kind of vaccine we've never used before. And then we're doing it at like the wrong stage of the virus going around the world.
Right, where we don't fully even understand the nature of it and again, this is, again, I'm not a scientist, but what I do know is that every day the story changes on, do you remember back when it was on hard surfaces for 3 or 4 days and all this
we
kind
closed
of stuff.
Playgrounds.
We closed playgrounds and all this stuff. And it's like the next day I was like, oh, maybe not. And it's like, so we don't even it makes sense to me that we wouldn't know how the mutations are going to happen and this and that and whatever. It's like this rings true for me. Even if it's not true, I know it was rushed. So there you go.
Yeah. Yep, exactly right. So here's my conspiracy theory part of it.
I'd love to hear this.
They're doing it on purpose. And they're doing it on purpose, and they rushed it out and made it successful, even though it hasn't been that successful, even though it didn't go through the trials or anything. It got emergency use. It was pushed on Donald Trump to do it. Donald Trump was more than happy to take the political win for it and try to carry it into his election victory, right? And he's still, like you said, he's still trying to take credit for it, which I think is a complete trap. But what if they know how viruses work? I mean, Dr. Fauci is actually tied into the donors for the Wuhan lab. There's this whole backstory where they weren't allowed to do these experiments in the United States. And so Fauci and some others went over and funded it through nonprofits for the Wuhan lab. What if they're doing this on purpose to make it the actual epic pandemic they wanted so that they can further control and further take liberty from all of us?
Who knows, man? Who knows? And I'm not the kind of person that thinks that everybody is in on it. It doesn't take everybody to be in on it. It just takes a few psychopaths. And frankly, psychopaths typically rise to the top of these groups and these organizations and stuff like that. Like the guy Cuomo from New York, that guy's a psychopath. You know what I mean? He's crazy. And these people, they just have no regard for anybody. Like they would be gladly kill people if they could get away with it. And this is what's going on.
Yep, absolutely. I don't even know which is a higher number. How many allegations against Cuomo or how many masks we're supposed to be wearing right now? I don't know which number's higher.
Probably the masks. Let's just be real. Yeah. The allegations pile up, but the masks are always one step ahead.
They're always one. Oh, so good. Austin says, of course we don't know how mutations happen. Didn't even see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming. No, they didn't.
Nobody did, Austin. That's a very good point. And even if you know this, Austin, the newer Ninja Turtles, they redid it, and there's even more mutants than there were ever before. There's mutants everywhere. There's squirrel mutants, snake mutants. It's crazy.
Did they ruin it, or is it any good?
I haven't really watched it. It's a little bit. It's more like for older kids. So my kids don't really watch it.
Oh, yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I'm surprised they're not canceled yet. Something. Just expect them to be canceled for something soon.
You're frozen, man. I don't know. I can't.
I'm frozen now.
Are you? Am I frozen?
I can hear you and see you. Can you hear me and see
me?
Good.
You're good now.
Are you just playing games with me now?
No, man. You're good now.
Oh.
What up, Edwin?
Hey, guys. All right. So for all of you guys new or watching, I'm going to put this out here again. We have one yes vote and then no votes. Do you want us to live stream with Biden's little press conference and we can talk through it for a little bit and see where it goes? If yes, you can say yes. If no, say no. And then we'll just take a poll. And until then, we're going to keep on going with it. So, yeah, I think they're doing it on purpose and they're going to use it to continue to lockdowns, continue the global reset because it didn't do the effect that it wanted to happen.
They had a decent effect, but they want more, obviously, and so they'll just keep doing what works. Why wouldn't they do it? Everyone was terrified out of their minds and did whatever they said. So let's just do it a little. Let's do it again.
Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah. Why not? Okay. No's are winning, so we better continue on.
Yeah,
So
those are definitely winning. By the way, Austin, Bebop is in the new one, but Rocksteady didn't make the cut. So sorry about that.
okay, so here's something I wanted to talk about in the news because I think it's really interesting, and we're going to have this huge problem, and we're probably all going to start experiencing it in some way or another, is immigration. Right, I believe last month there was 100,000 new migrants coming from South America, and there's going to be estimated over 2 million this year. Now, I think this is an interesting thing to talk about from a sphere sovereignty perspective, not necessarily the national policy perspective. I don't know how everyone else is that listens to the show, but for me, right now, from a government perspective, I don't think we should have any immigration right now, even people that are qualified and aren't undereducated and things like that, because I think we need to assimilate who we have here. AD, I don't know what is your theory on the government side of immigration, just high level.
Yeah. Definitely. This is a good question. And you always manage to find the questions, Matt, just FYI, that make me look like a super squish.
That's what I try to do.
But I think that the Bible envisions an immigration policy that's fairly free. That doesn't mean there's no rules. You don't let, obvious, crazies over the border. Like you got to maintain order to some degree. But it's fairly free flow of people. If the people want to come trade, they can come trade, whatever. But what the Bible does not anticipate is, well, not that it doesn't anticipate it, but it does not envision is a society that also has all these freebies for people, welfare, this and that, the ability to vote, all this stuff that we give to Americans and also immigrants, people, even illegal immigrants sometimes will get this free stuff, these goodies. And so you can either have, I've heard somebody say this, I don't remember who it was. This is not biblical, but it makes sense. You can either have the welfare state or you can have open immigration. You can't have both because it will destroy you, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not a biblical thing to say, but if you follow the Bible, you wouldn't have both. You wouldn't have that situation where you'd have people coming over the border that really don't intend to add value to anything. So I would say that the Bible would say the border should be fairly open, but the government would look nothing like it looks right now. You know what I mean? Nothing at all like it looks right now. Mm-hmm. And the Bible is exclusionary. I mean, if you look at the people that were allowed into the assembly, the Jews were allowed to intermarry, but they were only allowed to intermarry with people that converted, and there were certain groups that they were not allowed to intermarry at all until 10 generations had passed.
That's right.
So,
I forgot about that.
You needed to get rid of the whole filth of your pagan ways before they were allowed to intermarry with them. So it's not like the Bible's totally lawless and it's just like whatever. There can be standards, but it would be fairly open, but there would be no benefit for losers to come here. None.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually think that is great in theory, and I guess something to strive towards, not theory. It'd be great to have that as a goal. I think just right now from where we're at, that I'm still with my stance that we need to shut it down until we can get assimilation because of how we've ruined it with having poor policy and things like that. And I would say I would like that to get to a point where we could have free flowing immigration with obviously, I guess it wouldn't be free flowing in the sense, but it would be monitored immigration where we would know who's coming in and out, but let them come in and out unless they're a threat. But also we'd have to get rid of birthright citizenship for me to be on board with that as well. Not just that you can get free benefits or not get them anymore. It's that you can't come here and have kids and have them have benefits. It has to be you have to go through a process that's controlled. It's not just granted to you. We're the only nation in the world that does that. It's weird.
So let me ask you this, Matt. Maybe I don't know if you've thought of this or not. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Do it.
Why do you think it was that God didn't want the Jews to intermarry? Was he a bigot, or was there a reason?
I think it goes back to just simple idolatry. Is they didn't want them interbreeding with idolatrous nations that were worshiping other gods. In fact, we see that something that they punished the Jews for a lot, and God's wrath burned on them is for that very thing. And we don't think of it in those terms, but maybe we should.
Matt, you're exactly right. I think you're 100% right. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but,
no, please.
But the whole point was that you'd get let's just say you're a man and you get a foreign wife, you know, she's beautiful, exotic, all this stuff, but she happens to worship Moloch, you know. Well, that's a small thing, you know, whatever. she's really hot though, you know.
Right.
And so like she's worshiping Moloch, and the tendency is that she's going to turn your heart away from God. And you're going to start worshiping Asherah, or at least tolerating it, or at least like thinking in some of those terms. That's the idea. The idea is that you're following God. You're supposed to be following his law, his rules, he's the king. But then if you let all these other people come and intermarry, all of a sudden that gets diluted and you're worshiping God. Yeah, sure, you're worshiping Yahweh, but also there's a high place as well. Yeah, and also there's this and there's that and there's this. And so the whole idea of like multiculturalism is a bad idea. That's why God disallowed that. That's not good. That's not acceptable. We've got to follow one law, one God. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I think that's the idea that you're getting at here. So it's like, you know, we need to assimilate people. And I obviously would prefer that our system of law would be more based on God's law. That's what I would suggest. Mm-hmm. And everyone should be doing that. So the minute you let people in there that are really not into that and they're trying to entice you away from that, that becomes a problem. And that's why God didn't allow that kind of stuff. If you were going to be, you know, a pagan living in amongst the Jews, you were a sojourner, you were a foreigner, you better not do any work on Saturday. You better not start not enticing the Jews to do things on Saturday that they're not supposed to do. The minute you start to do that, you're no longer welcome. You know, you've got to follow the Jewish law if you're going to live amongst the Jews.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly right. And I think this is an issue where actually bringing in the spiritual elements of it makes a lot more sense, because what I'm saying when I want assimilation is I'm not saying I don't want Mexican food in the United States. I love Mexican food. I'm not saying that I don't want you to have your culture in and of itself. I don't want you to bring your false worship here. I don't want you to bring your values that contradict what our values are in America from originality. I mean, not now. Now I don't even want American values, but back in the day, American values is what I'd want. And so, I mean, that's basically what we're doing now is what God didn't want the Jews to be doing. We're bringing in socialists from South America, Mexico, Central America, South America, because they're all going to vote for big government. They're bringing in that idol worship of the government. It's the same thing.
It is the same thing. And you're right. You kind of have to think of it in spiritual terms. This is kind of a continuation of our conversation last week. Yeah. You know, you have to think of it in spiritual terms. And and again, you're right. Like when it comes to food, right? You mentioned Mexican food. There's some things in food that are incidental. It's and I mean incidental, not like they're random. It's just like, oh, we use these kind of spices. We've got avocados. We've got this. You know, you don't have that up here, but we have them. Let me show you how to work it. We put lime in everything, literally everything, like that kind of thing. Like that stuff is incidental. It's not like there's not a moral judgment there when it comes to whether or not I put lime on my rice, which I do. It's delicious. But there are some aspects of eating that are spiritual and do have some foundations behind them. For example, when the Mayans used to eat people, you know, like
you can leave that Mexican food.
Obviously, you got to go back to Aztecia or wherever you come from. You know, you can't be here when you're doing that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, so and so that's what I'm talking about, right? There's certain things that are cultural that are like that. Where, you know, you can bring that and you can bring that into the melting pot, whatever. But there are certain things that we can't tolerate. You know, we just can't do it. We can't tolerate the state worship. We can't tolerate some certain aspects of the Sharia law and being a Muslim and stuff like that. Like we shouldn't be tolerating some of that stuff.
Yeah, I think, and even just to bring it back to, here's just another example. And we're going on to the part that I didn't even want to talk about. But like, for example, in the Latino cultures, they celebrate the Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
Dia de la Fuerta, I think is how they say
Los
it.
Muertas.
Las Muertas. Thank you. That shouldn't be something that we want in our culture. We don't want to celebrate the dead. That is the antithesis of the Christian culture. We celebrate life. We celebrate redemption. But hey, if you want to celebrate Christmas a different way than we celebrate Christmas, okay, great. Like, we're not saying you have to do everything our way, but there's certain things that are going to work with our culture and there's going to be things that aren't. And then we're not saying you have to do everything our way, but you can't be bringing in these false religions and these false gods. And so we need to get back to controlling immigration, because those things have ruined us as a country for a long time. They ruined the state I was born in, California, completely ruined because of immigration. But so anyways, okay. So moving right along to this is we got that kind of perspective, the government sphere. And I thought applying the other spheres or sphere sovereignty as a general to this would be interesting, because just because we think of that from a government perspective, that doesn't necessarily mean that we should be like ostracizing illegal immigrants or not welcoming them into our church, not being good neighbors to them if they end up moving next to us. Like, that's kind of interesting to think about, because as a conservative Christian, I'm thinking I want to shut it down. We need to start controlling our nation. But then when I put on my family headship hat and I'm having to them as neighbors, I think that looks different. Don't you think?
Total. Absolutely. The way I would see it is like if I had a neighbor, and in fact, I have had neighbors that were on welfare, right? And so I think that the government should end all welfare programs instantly. Like if I had magic fingers, or if I was president for a day and I would be run out of town in that same day, I would snap my fingers and end it. But then I have a neighbor that has welfare, right? So I have to deal with that neighbor in a certain way, as a Christian, with compassion. I can't look down on them and stuff like that. I want to, share the gospel with them. I want to share my life with them if it's appropriate and stuff like that, even as I think that their income is illegitimate. You know what I mean? So they're working in a certain system. I'm going to work within that system. And so it's the same thing with like an immigrant. Like, I don't hate immigrants. You know what I mean? I just think that of course, like, you shouldn't be able to just come here and then vote in communists. I mean, is that too much to ask? You shouldn't be able to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You shouldn't get a voter registration card if you're not a citizen. You shouldn't, get all the goodies. You know what I mean? Now, charity's fine, but you don't get the entitlements. In fact, nobody should get those entitlements. It's not just you.
No citizen should get them.
Right.
Yes, we should take away your right to vote. I probably said that before in the show, but I'm still sticking with that. If you take entitlements, you don't get to vote. That's my solution. But so, I think not a lot of us talk about it from a conservative perspective of what's our role as individuals, though, as Christians. Is like, if they came to our church and they're actually Christians, like, we should treat them as Christians.
They're Christians. Yes,
they're
absolutely.
Christians. Yeah. And if they're our neighbor, we should love them as neighbors. We should welcome them in. We should be preaching the gospel. It's just because we think that the immigration from a government policy is wrong and shouldn't be happening. Well, we got to look at it from different lenses in life too.
I may know somebody, maybe not. He may have the initials AR, but he may have a undocumented immigrant in his extended family.
Interesting.
And that person may or may not deal with him in a very nice kind of a way.
Well, I would hope so, that AR gentleman. You know what's funny is I have my AR that I'm going to lose in a boating accident. I almost put that on screen. I'm like, oh, AR, huh? Got that right next to me right now.
Definitely do that.
Polishing up before it drowns. Let's see. People bring their own cultures with them. If they don't assimilate, the culture of the host will have to change. We have seen this since 1965. America used to emphasize individual responsibility. Yep, exactly right. And I don't even know if we could get back to that right now. I mean, it would have to really take a spiritual revival, whatever you want to call it. It'd be like
unscrambling an egg. You can't do it. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think we've gone way too far. You guys should look up Gert, another Swedish person, Hofstede, and dimensions of culture. No other culture than historical American culture would have come up with our Constitution as laws. But see, this is the thing is, I feel like the culture in Israel would have been similar from a economic perspective in a lot of ways. I don't think the economic or economy is the right way to say it. The economy of Israel in the Old Testament, besides having a king that would exact tribute, I don't think as far as personal property, personal responsibility was that different from what we had in the beginning. Would you say that they were pretty similar? I mean, I'm sure there's differences, but
yeah, I'm sure there's differences, but it would have looked very libertarian in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, they had personal property. That's the foundation of capitalism. They were able to buy and sell and trade. People donated their work to the temple, which had been probably a form of charity like we have today. Like, obviously, it was different. It was thousands of years ago, but I don't think it was that far off. And I say that because I think a lot of what got our Constitution from was actually the Old Testament. Again, go
Yes.
back to John Locke's two treaties. It's citations. Then
Sure.
therefore, since it said this in the Old Testament, we should have private property rights. So it couldn't be
Yeah,
that far off.
absolutely. And one thing I wanted to comment on, you mentioned you shouldn't be able to vote if you get entitlements.
Entitlements, yeah.
And the thing is, I would assume that you would apply that to businesses that get entitlements and corpos and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, if a business
Farmers
could
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if a business could vote, I would say no, you couldn't.
What about the owner of the business?
Oh, that'd be good. Or all shareholders
All
of a business.
That'd be wild.
That would be wild. That would end it, though. We would not have corporate entitlements.
That would have to end it. Could you
That's
imagine
good.
if all shareholders of Bank of America could not vote if Bank of America took a bailout?
Oh,
That'd be something.
I'd love that so much. I was thinking about today, and now we're going totally off topic, but I don't care. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. So Joe Biden today signed this $1.9 trillion deal that we're not going to watch because everyone said no, and we're already 10 minutes into it. He probably already fell asleep.
Plus, who cares?
Plus, who cares, right? I mean, like I said, 2,400 or something, 2,600 people voted thumbs down to the 200 thumbs up. I mean, populist president in the world, most popular president. But then I was looking at the bond market at the time I was reading that, the 10-year treasuries, it was at 1.5 today. It's got up to 1.6 this last week, which is huge. We've talked about it, I think, before. But there is no way that kind of bill would have ever been able to been passed. There's no way we would spend $1.9 trillion if we didn't have a Federal Reserve artificially keeping down interest rates. If interest rates were at 10%, there was no way we would be spending $1.9 trillion.
Sure.
On it.
How could they afford it? They could never afford it.
So my question to you is do you want to get rid of the Fed altogether? Do you think it's immoral? Do you think it's something that's just a subsidy? Like I think the Fed was simply created to monetize and fund all of these liberal policies. And if we got rid of the Fed, we wouldn't have liberalism. What say you?
The Fed is a monster. It's a beast. It's exactly for that. Exactly for that. It's there so that you have to have you can operate in a fantasy land and pretend like you can have anything you want. And it doesn't matter about taxes, revenues, nothing really matters in the fantasy land. And so it's like, what is it? A liberal's whole policy list is a fantasy land. So they have to do it. You know what I mean? And so if there was no Fed, there would still be liberals, but they would never be able to pass anything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't be able to do the sides that we're doing. And it was really eye-opening for me because maybe it's just a coming of age, because I was just my indoctrination and my schooling and things like that. I was always taught the Fed was there to stabilize currencies, to make sure that the drastic recessions and the growth periods weren't too extreme and that you could moderate things. And then I just always thought they were terrible at it. But then I was thinking,
they were incompetent. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was thinking, well, maybe that's not even their main function.
Yeah.
Because no one seems to care. And then I was thinking with this $1 trillion package, there would be no way for any country to spend and to finance the things that we do if the Fed didn't exist. If there was no Fed doing this and the free market controlled spending, what are we at, $30 trillion now in debt? Who would pay for that? Nobody would. Nobody would. It would be absolutely. Nobody's going to end up paying for it either. I mean, how could they ever pay this back? I heard a number that said that in 2023 or 2024 that we won't be able to even afford the interest anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just completely over. You know what I mean? So like, just to think about where we are, $30 trillion. The Tea Party was formed and created over Obama passing or trying to pass, I don't even remember if he did it, an $800 billion package. $800 billion, and we're at $30 trillion in so 9 years. We're gone. There's nothing
said about that. I can't imagine, to your previous point, I cannot imagine that the people that are in the Fed are actually that incompetent. There's just no way.
No.
They're doing it intentionally.
Yeah. And that just completely shifted my mindset.
They're doing it to I think their real mission, if they were honest, is to make things good in the present as good as they possibly can. So like their concern is the present. So can we do this now? And whatever, we'll figure that out later. Whatever happens, like now is what I need to make look good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's like this. I think it's like a rich guy who wants to make some deals, and he goes to his financial advisor and say, "Hey, make it happen." And so the Fed wants to make it happen,
of course,
and they're going to try to make it seem like it works out, but like it's still bad and it's still ruining the economy. Like there's only so much you can do over a bad thing to make it look good.
Yeah.
And like, man, was that the scam all along? That they're like, we're going to create this Fed to finance and help us hide the cost of all of these policies we want to do.
Right, because we want to do all this crazy stuff, but we don't want to raise taxes because nobody likes that. So how do we figure out how to do this? That's basically it. Because Biden will talk about a tax increase, but it's just going to be nibbling around the edges. It's not going to be able to pay for anything. You know what I mean? Like the tax increases won't be able to pay for anything. So that's what they do. So they end up, instead, they just inflate the currency. They just print a bunch of money, and then they don't have to raise taxes. But really, it is a tax because your money is worth less. So that's a big scam. I think it is a big scam.
Yeah, I think it is too. And I mean, they're so right. They were so, if that's their goal, and you look back since their founding, then they've done a phenomenal job. If their goal was truly to not crash the economy, they failed miserably every single time they've tried. So maybe that's not their goal.
Yeah, maybe. I think these guys are smart.
I think they are too. I think they're really smart.
Yeah.
I don't think us dummies, even that aren't really dummies, could even get a job at the Fed even if we wanted to.
Sure.
They wouldn't have anything to do with us.
These guys are smart. They just have a different mission than what they say their mission is.
Exactly right. And so too with the whole government. I don't think
right.
these government, like some of them are pretty stupid, but I mean the actual people that we don't see on TV,
not the politicians. There's some idiots there, but like, the people that are actually in charge, the bureaucrats,
the administrative state.
Yep, exactly.
Those guys are smart. Yep, exactly right. So I love this, Justin. You guys get it so right on with the Fed and centralized fiat currency, but why can't you get on board with Bitcoin? I mean, maybe it's a CIA program or whatever. I don't know.
I like the idea. I always say this. I like the idea of Bitcoin. I said this last night too on my private Patreon Q&A. Mm-hmm. I like all the theory and the ideology of Bitcoin, but in practice, I don't like it because this is what I was talking about with a couple guys last night. Did you know, Matt, that there's like a handful of people that own like huge percentages of Bitcoin? Like a handful 98%. Of guys.
2%. I think I said the stat like a couple weeks ago. 2% of the people own 98% of Bitcoin.
Right. So that in practice is a horrible, horrible thing. That could not be worse for Bitcoin. Now, I like the idea of having the distributed system. That's all cool. I love that. That makes a lot of sense to me. I like the idea that you can have it on a little disk and, you don't have to. I like a lot of it. I like the whole idea of it. But in practice, Bitcoin just seems so. That's a horrible thing for that many people to own that much Bitcoin.
Could you imagine getting together with those 2% and just making it fluctuate and make money off of it like crazy?
Who knows?
You could make trillions.
Who knows? You could make so much money doing that.
Oh my gosh.
That's a horrible, horrible thing. That's a big challenge. I don't see how could Bitcoin beat that? How could it overcome that flaw? That's a huge flaw.
That is a huge flaw. How do you distribute Bitcoin if you don't sell it? So that'd be interesting. I don't know. All right, Nathaniel, super chat.
Some people say that these guys probably lost their password. That's why they're holding it.
Could you imagine? Oh my gosh.
I have $3 trillion worth of Bitcoin, but I lost my password.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine having like even $1 million, lose your password, and then actual financial problems, and you lose your house and stuff? You have this $1 million, you can't access it, you're on credit card debt, you lose your home, you go homeless. Just trying to think of the past. It's had to happen somewhere in the world.
Oh man, it's just that's brutal. That is so brutal.
So brutal.
Anyway,
Nathaniel, I think you give us a super chat every single week. Thank you so much. So you said Lore is trying to make better Christian movies and tell great stories. I think they're starting to. What could Christian music do to be better? And what kind of music do you all listen to for fun? Time to take dominion over all art. I cannot agree with you more. I'm just not really musically talented. I play guitar. I'm terrible at it.
So you don't know what it would take.
I don't know what it would take. But I will say this is we need to get Christian producers and who is controlling whoever it is, the Christian music industry, and stop getting them to fit into the same genre. And I don't know anything about being successful at being a good musician. I do know a lot about business. And when you hear Christian radio stations all sound the same, it's not because all artists are the same. It's because there are a select group of people trying to make something that sells, and they think they found the formula, and everyone's trying to fit into it. So I think it needs to break out of that for one. I don't know. Do you have any ideas?
It's that kind of reminds me of the story, Matt, of I don't know if this is true. It might be apocryphal of Henry Ford saying something how, hey, if you asked what people wanted, they would say faster horses.
Yes.
But I'm going to build them a car. You know what I mean? Like It's kind of like that. It's like you feel like you got this formula and you just keep doing the same thing, and it sells probably okay. But meanwhile, there's probably other things that you could do that would actually sell more. You got to tell people what they want sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I really don't know what would be the key. I think Lore's kind of theory is that whole idea of having a handful of people control it all is terrible. So you want to distribute it. You want it to be more like Bitcoin in that way. Anyway, you want to distribute it and let people try things out, fail, try again, see what happens. That seems to be the way to make things better, probably in that regard. But I don't know. As far as what I listen to, I honestly used to listen to like Smashing Pumpkins and stuff like that, and just like music like that. But now I don't really listen to much besides like kid songs. Matt, what's that band that your son was listening to in the car?
20 Trucks.
20 trucks. Yeah, I listen to that stuff. Matt was playing that in his car. I was like, I know this song. I love this song. 20 Trucks and
dump it.
When I when I work, I'll either listen to like a YouTube video or I'll listen to like old school video game music from when I was a kid, because that music is designed to like not distract you too much, but gets you going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I listen to a lot of jazz. I'm actually been really excited. No, this doesn't answer your question, but jazz has kind of made a little rebirth, and at least there's been like a new wave of it. So it's not like the old big bands or saxophone kind of thing, but it really feels like there's more soul to jazz and the newer stuff that's coming out, and I've been really excited about that. I've been a jazz fan for a long time, and I really thought it was going to die off. I thought no one was going to be interested in it anymore, but it seems like it's kind of had a rebirth. I've been happy about that. Some of the Christian artists I like. I mean, Shane and Shane, they're pretty popular. I think they're pretty good musicians. I really like their psalm albums. Those are really good. Leland is not. I think they're really talented. They're probably a super Pentecostal, so all the Reformed people wouldn't like them. Phil Wickham, I actually knew him. I don't really like his music, but I think he's super talented. His whole family is actually really talented. I don't know. I mean, it's rare, and and this is the other thing is there's even a lot of good Christian artists, but they just copy other people's songs and redo them their own, and that drives me nuts. So.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying on that. There just needs to be more innovation. There needs to be like a more of a license to try things out and to fail and to do all that kind of stuff. Because once you get stuck into that mold of being a cookie cutter or copying or stuff like that, then that's how you end up, always behind the times. You know what I mean?
For sure. I mean,
you always end up behind what's right.
Always.
So it would be awesome if we could get people setting the trends. You know what I mean? I think that's what Lore's attempting to do. Which is good because that you want people copying you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. We got Skillet. They're good. That was one area, at least back in my punk rock days, where Christian music always dominated was hardcore music. Now, I know Skillet isn't technically hardcore, but all of the good hardcore bands, I mean like hardcore bands, were Christian. It was the weirdest thing in the world, but they dominated that genre of music. Like hands down, everyone knew it.
And there were a few, Christian artists that were kind of on the cutting edge of some of this stuff like that. What was that band with the, they were from like San Diego. What, POD?
POD. Yeah.
They were like, people love those guys. And a lot of people didn't even know they were Christian. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I don't know where they're at now, but I knew that, but they were making like popular, decent music back then. So it's possible, but it's just like it doesn't. POD wasn't being played on K-Love. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it didn't fit that mold, and that if you want to be a Christian artist, you got to fit that certain mold.
Mhm.
And I'm at the point now where I hear bad songs in like movies, like secular movies,
Mhm.
and instantly I go, oh, this sounds like a Christian song. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
right.
it's terrible. It's like a horrible song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I Am Smith is taking me back. There was some great Christian ska back in the day. What, Supertones? Wasn't that one of the ska bands in the 90s?
That sounds right. I never listened to that stuff.
Yeah, I did a little bit. Like the punk rock people would always kind of listen to ska every once in a while. They'd have like concerts together or whatever. Yeah, there was some good ones. Oh, there was this one. Was it ska or was it punk rock? I don't remember. They did a worship album and it was terrible, but it was really funny having the ska and Supertones Strike Back. OC Supertones. Yeah, that's right. That was Orange County. Yeah. Yeah, was ska really a big thing in where you were at in New York and the Northeast, or was that a West Coast thing?
I was in Connecticut, and I had a few friends. I was in the band, so I was like a band geek, and I had a few friends that were super into ska.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly never really knew what it was until later. So I don't want to say it's big, but there were certain people in the school that loved it. Yeah.
All right, so we got another super chat. I'm not going to put this one up on the screen, but he says, I've realized I've been weak and effeminate, and I'm trying to man up, stand on my own 2 feet, and make my way in the world and not be dependent. Any advice? Do you have any advice for the man?
Yeah, so you should definitely check out this. I don't know if it's technically a ministry, but it's two guys. They call it "It's Good to Be a Man."
Yes.
Michael Foster and Non Tennant.
Bond.
I think it's Non.
Yeah.
It's
no
B N. Right.
Yeah.
Check out their stuff. It is so helpful, and they have a real I don't want to say a heart because that makes me sound like a very tender-hearted person, but they have a real desire to love guys that have been trained wrong. You know what I mean? That didn't have people in their lives to tell them, hey, this is not how a man acts. You know what I mean? I was lucky. I had a father that did that for me. You know what I mean? And if I was being a sissy, he would say, you got to man up here. You know what I mean? He did not rob me of that. But to some extent, pretty much anyone who grew up in this kind of in our age range kind of had some of that. So these guys are good at like deprogramming some of that and cutting through the nonsense. And this is not the kind of like servant leader stuff that you're going to get from a typical Big Eva type. That's not really all that helpful. You know what I mean? This stuff is so good. And they do, I know that these guys do like private video chats where they help you work through issues, work through problems, work through things. Cause I've actually been on one of them before. So that's what I would do. That's their expertise, kind of like deprogramming what has happened to so many men. So you're not alone, man. So, I'm glad that you're kind of like realizing that you're kind of, owning up to it and you want to change. That's a great first step. There's no time to change like right now. And these guys are so good at exactly the situation you find yourself in. So I would recommend them for sure.
Yeah, if you go to one of their private videos, you'll grow a beard like AD, and that's why he has his beard today. No, I'm just kidding. Well, yeah, so I'm on their website right now for those of you who are listening, and they have titles like How to Develop a Masculine Mission for Your Life, A Living Faith Produces Masculine Piety, and stuff like that. They're really good. We should have them on sometime again. I think we had Foster on.
Yeah, we definitely should. That would be great.
That would be great. We actually had, I feel bad. He reached out to us and there was like 5 or 6 of us and we were going to have a conversation, but we both deleted our Facebook in the 2 weeks. And so we kind of left that message hanging. You remember that? That was funny.
We both kind of like abruptly just deleted it. Just no warning. Just like, I'm out of here.
It felt so good. Inside. Yes, that was the band that had the worship album that I was thinking of. It was terrible, but anyways, okay. So going back, and I would say this too, is because there are times even in my life where being effeminate or cowardly or not being the brave and leader man that's going to die on the cross for my family and for others. I notice whenever there is sin in my life, being a coward, being effeminate is a lot easier.
Yeah.
And so when I am being repentant, getting those, sexual thoughts out of my mind, not watching pornography like I did a long time ago. Those kinds of things weaken me. Those kinds of things make me less of a man. And it's funny because those things that even tempt you in sin to make you feel like that's how you can be a man are the things that make you the most effeminate in a lot of ways and make you not masculine, make you to lose and compromise those masculine qualities that God wants you to have. So if you are struggling with that, I would just do this anyway. I mean, with everything, we'd be constantly in repent, constantly searching for areas that we are failing in. And as we repent of those things and become more Christ-like, because that's what you're doing, right? You're turning directions from your sin to be more Christ-like. You will naturally or supernaturally through your sanctification and reformation become more like Christ, which will make you more masculine.
Yeah, totally, man. No, that's totally true. And you have to recognize that. And I'm not saying that you're in this boat, because I don't think he said that he was. Hold on, let me just see this. Yeah, I'm not saying you're in this boat, Matthew. So I'm just saying this for everybody. You got to put away the pornos, man. You have to, because the pornos are designed to do that exact thing to you, to put you in a position of weakness and of effeminacy and all that kind of stuff. Lots of people are waking up to this, not just Christians, by the way, are waking up to the idea that you got to put away the pornos and then start getting after it. You know what I mean? You can't be pacified in that way, and that's what it's intended to do. So I'm not putting that on you. You didn't say that. You didn't say that that's where you were struggling, but that's good advice, Matt, because you've actually said that a bunch of times about other people, where it's like, well, why aren't they standing up? And you've often said, oh, they're probably not qualified.
Right.
And that's kind of what you meant. Like, there's something going on there that make, you're not accusing them of anything, but there's probably a lack of qualification there that is leading to them not doing what they know is right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say that not because I have some like prophetic knowledge, but
sure.
I see it in my life. I know that when I haven't stood and fought the battles that I wanted to fight or thought I should fight, or I left as a coward, was because I was sinful and I wasn't resting on Jesus Christ as my rock. Because when I have that sure footing and I'm not wavering on other sins and having those things in my life, then I have no reason not to be bold, because I'm secure in Christ. But when I'm not standing on that foundation, it just inevitably that's going to happen. I'm second guessing myself. I'm not finding the security I need, because I'm created that way to be find secure in Christ, not myself. And it's just a domino effect. And so I can say that about others because I see it in myself. That's why I'm saying. And then, so the other thing too is not just having negative advice for you of not doing certain things, but find good, solid Christian men. And if you don't have them in your church, like, find them somewhere else. Find solid, good Christian men. There's nothing that makes me feel being more masculine, being more brave, being all of those things of a masculine quality than being around godly, especially older men. When I'm around older, godly men, and I'm thinking like Tom Askell, I'm thinking of the Jared Longshores of the world, those kinds of people, even when I'm just in a room with them and just talking with them about the Lord and plans and futures and battles, it inspires me to be a greater man. And so if you don't have that in your life, that is something you desperately need. It's not a nice option, a nice luxury to have. We need that in all of our lives as men.
Good stuff, man.
Good stuff. All right. Do we see anything else? Brian Suave, great musical artist on Spotify, doing Psalms 2. Has he been on this show? Oh, he was on my How to Build a Tent show back in the day.
He hasn't been on this show. My wife listened to his stuff, and she really liked it, and I just haven't yet. That's shame on me, man.
Yeah, my wife listens to it with the kids throughout the day. It's psalm singing to music, and he's super talented, even though he has a French name. It's just, but he's great. I'd highly recommend him. He's on Spotify. Fantastic. Matthew, brainstorm how to be productive, build business, prepare for the future spiritually and material. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. That definitely helps too. But I think just the main things is making sure you don't have sin in your life, constantly being repentant, and being around other strong, godly men.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be a lifelong focus too. You got to master yourself, and then from there you can start to master your environment. So it kind of goes out in concentric circles. So we've all got to be responsible for ourselves, the things that we can control. Yourself is the closest thing to you. and then you can be a good father, and then you can be a good churchman, and then you can be a good whatever it is that you do, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think, and because it's in my mind, effeminacy and masculinity are spectrums that we're constantly trying to strive towards.
Sure.
I've become more masculine as a Christian, not like machismo masculine, but
have you? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, but I've become more Christ-like and been more biblically masculine as I've grown. And so, but there will be times where I'm a coward or I have more effeminate like incidences in my life, but they're not going to be the same as when I was less of a man in Christ before. It's going to look differently. And so I think you're right. It's a constant battle we're going to continually to fight, and it's going to look different as we mature more in Christ. Like what it looks like to mature for a 50-year-old, 60-year-old who's been in the Lord for his whole life to be having those compromises and to kind of slip and sin is going to look different than someone who just became a Christian, and then just the different sins that people deal with and things like that. It's a spectrum. It's not one thing that looks the same for everyone, is what I'm trying to say.
Matthew, God bless you. We'll definitely be praying for you, and definitely check out those guys, man. So they definitely can help you in that area in particular. No question about it. And just know, man, you're not alone. I see your next comment. You came out of homosexuality. You're not alone, man. Many people have done that, and many people are finding their way, out of that whole lifestyle. That's just a vortex of effeminacy. You know what I mean? It's not hopeless. You know what I mean? There's a lot of materials out there that'll tell you that it's essentially hopeless. Even Christian materials that'll say that, oh, this is just who I am, I guess. It's not the case. Yep. It's not the case.
Yeah, exactly right. And so I just hope I'm thankful that you're here. I'm thankful that you shared that with us. I just want you to know from us, there's no condemnation in it. I praise God for that. That makes me so happy to see God doing that in your life, and just continue to strive for it, man. I mean, we haven't struggled with homosexuality in that way. And we are constantly trying to struggle and become more masculine. So you're just on the ride with us. You're not different. We're doing the same battles. We're happy to have you here. Go check out It's Good to Be a Man. Get those good Christian men in your life, and continue to be here. I hope that you stick around and we see you with your comments and stuff, and we'll be praying for you.
Did you guys see, Matt? I know we're just about done here, but on this topic, sort of, did you guys see the video that John Harris put out about Nini's Deli?
Yes.
Dude.
Oh my goodness, that was so good.
So it's a great documentary, and that dude came out of homosexuality as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's not what the story is about, but it's just so interesting. Like that dude, he faced down the mob, man, like a real man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he came out of that kind of a lifestyle as well. And you're not alone, and it's possible, man. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend everyone go to Gab, and I think he's there now. He might be on Twitter
John Harris
still.
on Gab. I think he's still on Twitter and all that stuff, but it's on YouTube. It's called Paint the Wall Black.
Yeah, highly recommend it, man. It was at parts I was in tears of just so grateful for the stand that they were making, and then I was so enraged at the cowards that we have leading us in the church today at the same time. It's like, how do you even sleep at night? Some of the people that we've talked about in the past, when you see brothers in Christ fighting like this, and then you are appeasing the mob, you are even on their side. Oh, it just makes me so mad. But yeah, that was such a great video.
Great stuff. He actually, John, he sent it to me last week to watch. I was like, okay. I got the private scoop.
Ooh.
And I was like, man, how did I not know this story? This is amazing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he was telling me, oh yeah, we're going to put it out next week. It's going to be great. Dude, you know what we should do, Matt? We should get that guy on our show.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
That's a good point. Got to figure out how to reach out to him.
I may have his phone number.
Oh, do you really?
Let's see what John sent me.
All right. Yeah, you work on that. Yeah. Yes. You scrape that data, and we'll see if we can get on. Dude, that'd be encouraging. That wouldn't just be a great show. That'd be encouraging just to hear and talk to him and be, sure. All right, cool. Yeah, let me know about that, and then we'll try to set that up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live, supporting us on the Super Chat. Thank you for everyone who supports us continually on the Reformgelical. I'm drawing a blank on what it is. Patreon.com/reformgelical. You guys pay for us to use the software we use to record, so that's a real blessing to us. Thank you for everyone who supports us. And if you missed the show live, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. You can check it out when we launch it on our podcast and on YouTube Fridays. So with that, we'll talk to you next week. God bless.
God bless.